listening to Sweet Billy Radio.
All right, man. Lo and behold, we have a packed house tonight. It is Sweep the League. It's Taco Tuesday. Everybody loves them tacos. I know I used to love them tacos because I used to eat like 6 to 7 tacos in the morning. Geo, back
As
in
lightweight.
my big boy days, I was stopping at Mama Margie's on the way to work, and I would get like 3 meat and cheese tacos and 2 beef fajita tacos and either a carne guisada taco or a picadillo taco. I was just loving my tacos back in the day, man. Everybody loves them. Everybody
Rudy,
does.
I'm pretty sure you could have had more.
I definitely could have had more. There's no doubt about it, man. Hey, man, it feels good. Derek's back on Sweep the League. One of the hosts for Sweep the League, Derek Irvin. Gio's here on a Tuesday, a Taco Tuesday night. The whole family, we're still missing Rock and a couple other people, but everybody's going to come on at some point this week. Derek, how you been, man? You been doing okay?
I'm great, man. I'm actually laughing because you mentioned Mama Margie's, and that's where I ate with my team this past Friday after the game. So it was kind of a late meal, man, but it was fun to be out with the young people and hanging out at Mama Margie's in the house.
Wait, what's the go-to at Mama Margie's for you?
For me, I like the beef fajitas, but they also have really good breakfast. I like the breakfast tacos as well. But Friday, I settled for the fajitas, beef fajitas, and I was more than happy. So I'm giving 2 thumbs up to Mama Margie's.
Oh, man.
Hey, Derek, it's great to have you on. I heard Rudy finally paid you what you were owed, so you decided to make an appearance. It's always good.
Hey, Gio, I'm so proud of you, man. I didn't know. I've been seeing you're a family man. So,
yeah, I'm trying to be.
He's getting there,
man. A lot of people don't know. Some of us just getting familiar with each other through the course of this show. But you being a family man, I had to commend you on that, man. It looks like to me you're doing a great job, and I say that with all sincerity.
I'm trying, Derek. Every day I'm getting better and better.
Well, that's what it's about. Every day we're supposed to learn something and continue to get better, right?
100%, man. Hey, so this is Sweep the League. If you guys want to ever subscribe to our channel, do it right now. Do it ASAP. Click the notification button because we go live during the week, especially in the evening. Sometimes we pop up during the day. As of right now, we're going to be doing a giveaway. So we started off revamping the entire brand for Sweep the League. We're on YouTube as of this morning. Actually, as of a little while ago, we're up to 66 subscribers. We got to hit that 100 mark. But I said 50 subscribers. We'll be giving stuff away. We're doing double duty this Friday. We're probably going to do an afternoon show Friday. Then we're going to do an evening show Friday. I believe Derek has a game Friday, so he may not be here on Friday. But we're giving away gift cards this Friday. So join us on Sweep the League. Click that notification button on YouTube after you subscribe so you know when we're live. You can win some gift cards. Hey, shout out to our partners, Lids, Burger Boy, Mudslingers, La Cocina food truck here in New Braunfels. Special leaf. I'm another flavor, Gio. I'm drinking
you drink those every day, it seems like.
The hibiscus blueberry.
I'm waiting for me to get my shipment in so I can also advertise as well.
I've already put the order in for you. So you'll get your order here very, very soon. Shout out to all of our sponsors, man. All of our partners here. They're not even sponsors, they're partners for us. We're all family here at Sweep the League. So we got some stuff to get into here. Yesterday I was talking about the NBA finals. We're going to get into some finals talk. I made mention of the Caden Clark situation, how I kind of talked a little bit about that. I talked about the Dallas Cowboys. I need to get y'all's take on the Cowboys here. Plus, man, it's Taco Tuesday, so we're going to stuff the listeners taco-wise with a bunch of no nonsense, no bull type of talk. And when I say that, I've seen posts on Facebook. Derek, you've seen the same post on Facebook about the greatest shooter and the greatest scorer. We're going to try to put the absolute breaks on using the word great when it comes to Sweep the League and all of its listeners. That'll be later on in Sweep the League. Say to the comments here. Ben Dink, what's up, coach? So you got Ben Dink here. Gio the family man.
So Ben Dink is a really, really good friend of mine. We go way back to high school. He's also a Rams fan as well. So we might also want to have him on during the season. But shout out.
We're not all perfect.
Gerald.
Obviously, we're no Rams fan. We're not all perfect. We cannot be Rams fans. I'm here to report in for the mandatory Sweep the League mini camp. That is right. This is Sweep the League mini camp. Coach Derek Gervin, Coach Gio in the house. Of course, Tim's in here. Tar Heels still sucks.
That Tim.
I never get love. I never get love when it comes to the.
Hey, Tim, listen, man. Me and Tim go way back, so definitely showing the love there.
All right, man. We're going to get some NBA talk here. This is going to be some NBA Finals talk, plus Spurs rumors. We got to get Derek's take on some Spurs rumors as well. This is Sweep the League. It's going to be some NBA talk here. Man, the finals ended up starting on Thursday, 7:30 tip-off. And, of course, it's been mentioned if you're under a rock or maybe you just haven't paid attention, it is the Dallas Mavericks against the Boston Celtics. Past couple of shows, I've made the announcements that I'm taking Boston in 6. I've got everybody here that matters to me because these guys know I've taken Boston all year. And before the season started, I'm going to stick with Boston. But I have a concern with the series at the end of this series that I'm going to bring up to you guys' attention. But first, let's go around the horn here. I'm going to start with Derek. Derek, takes on the NBA Finals. Now, who do you have winning the finals? And also yesterday, I gave my keys for each team. And when I say keys to the teams, my players who I think are going to have to show up in order for their team to win the ship. And my thing is for the Boston Celtics, I fully expect Derek White to be that main guy for Boston. I think he's the focal point and will be the man to help Boston lift up another trophy and make it number 18. For the Maverick side, I took Derek Lively. The way he was able to command everything against Minnesota, making it tough for Cat, making it tough for Anthony Edwards, I think Lively has to be massive if the Mavericks have a chance. But give me your keys, Derek, to Boston and Dallas.
Wow. Well, first, I think it's going to be a fantastic series. Man, so many subplots, man. It'll take all day. We got Porzingis going back to play against his old team, Luka. We see that didn't work out. And then you got Kyrie, the guy who kind of stumped on the logo like a Terrell Owens type move, making his return to Boston. And it's going to be interesting to me because, you got a lot of things that's going to go on. You got new players from Dallas. It just seemed like they just turned it on up a level when they brought in Gafford. And I got to give Derrick Jones his credit. And, of course, P.J. Washington. But on the other side, you're looking at Boston has Drew Holiday there. They have Porzingis. And for me, this series came down to Porzingis being healthy. It looks like he's had plenty of time to rest. So I'm expecting him to be healthy. I think Boston's going to win this series in 6. The reason I believe that, the main reasons are because they have guys that are interchangeable defensively. And so you got many guys that you can run at Luka or Kyrie. When you're talking about Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, you could put Drew on one of those guys. You could put Derek White on one of those guys. So there's going to be many guys that you could put on them. So I think that this is going to make the other guys, the role players, I'll say, for Dallas, have to step up and play consistent basketball. And I don't know if they can continue knocking down shots. P.J. Washington shot the ball pretty good, played really well. But as you know, no two series are alike. Mm-mm. And I think Dallas has played very well. They were a number 5 seed. And at some point, I just felt like they would be close to winning the championship, but they would come up a little short. And I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics. I just think they're more consistent. I know they're a jump shooting team, but they can make adjustments. And I think that's going to be the deciding factor for me is they're going to be able to kind of, I won't say control, but maybe limit Kyrie, probably a little more than they'll be able to limit Luka. And I think that'll end up making a difference. So I'm picking the Dallas Mavericks to lose this series in 6 games. I'm happy to see Kyrie, kind of have a transformation. He's been loved today And then we know a couple of years ago, it wasn't the same situation. So it seemed like he's matured a lot. But I'm going to pick the Boston Celtics to win that series in 6 games.
Shout out, man. Yeah, because Kyrie turning that new leaf is making a huge difference for Dallas. And
Rudy, can I say something quickly?
Yeah.
I don't want people – I don't need – when I talk about Kyrie, it has nothing to do with the anti-Semitism stuff, nothing to do with that. Yeah. Kyrie used to be my second favorite player behind Kawhi Leonard. But then he started missing games for a variety of reasons, birthday parties, etc.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of changed. So I just want to make people let them know for sure. It has nothing to do with the post that he made. It's about all the other things that are the other little things. And that's what kind of got me off the Kyrie bandwagon. But I'm back on it now. The man has matured. He's played all season. He seems to have bought in. They seem to love him in Dallas. And more importantly, he seems to love it in Dallas. And so I'm happy to see him get this opportunity to go to at least to get a chance to get his second championship.
Oh, 100%, man. That's the thing is I think it's going to be a great series. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a fantastic series. It's going to be minimum 6 games is what I'm saying. And I'm going to go to Gio right now because I want to get his take on the finals before they end up getting started here Thursday. But I did have a question about the finals and see if this kind of changes everybody's mind. Real quick, Gio, before we go any further, JC's in here. Evening, gentlemen. Glad to spend some quality time with y'all. Great to hear your thoughts. JC, so that's the special leaf guy right there, Gio. So, JC, if there's any way we can get Gio and even Derek, if Derek wants some special leaf tea here.
Yes, sir.
Gio wants to try it. Apparently, Gio's mad at me, and it's part of his new NIL deal from Sweep the League. So.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, that was a big opportunity, and I want to cash in. But Rudy, back to the NBA Finals talk. Yeah. I kind of have gone back and forth the last few days. I don't think this is as cut as dry as I've been kind of seeing on X as well as other social media platforms. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going with the Dallas Mavericks, and I know I'm a Spurs fan.
There's no problem.
I bleed black, silver, white, whatever colors are showing on that day of the game. But Dallas, Luka, and Kyrie, man, to me, at their peak, at their best, if that's what they show in this series, what I think they're capable of doing, giving Herculean efforts, I really think that Boston, look, living and dying by the 3, right? That's kind of the whole motto of that team. Mm-hmm. I live in Indiana. I saw a lot of that Pacers series, and listen, that game 1, and I'm sure Derek would agree, the Pacers choked, man. They had a golden opportunity in game 1 and game 3 being up by a ton of points and just wasn't able to close the deal. But the X factor, look, I know Dallas they played some good matchups. Minnesota kind of lost out of gas, right? Like they just couldn't get enough. They gave up everything in that series against the Nuggets. But Kyrie and Luka, everyone else obviously is important. Porzingis is coming back. But to me, the 2 players need to be the 2 best players in the entire series to get it done. I believe in Luka and Kyrie. I think Kyrie, as y'all know, if he's hot, if he's feeling it, with him and Luka, Rudy, I just think it's going to be tough. Now, Porzingis to me is the key. If it's not the Porzingis of old before the injury, I think Dallas has a great opportunity. If Porzingis comes in and they get that 3rd guy in there, listen, Al Horford's, he's played well. A lot of these guys, Derek White, he's hitting big shots. Porzingis is, though, the key, I think, for Dallas. If he's hot, he's feeling it, he's in himself, I think that may be the tipping point. But, man, Luka and Kyrie, I've enjoyed watching them in this playoff run. It's been great to watch, and I want Kyrie and Luka to win it. I know what's going on in Boston. I know all that stuff. We believe all that, but I'm rooting for the Dallas Mavericks. Hey, they play in Texas, so I'm a little biased.
You're not even a Texas guy.
I'm not a Texan, but I'm a Spurs guy, Rudy. Stop it, Rudy. I'm a Spurs guy. So, and maybe one day I'll live in Texas. You never know. But
that'd
look,
be nice.
I'm rooting for Dallas in this series. I would love for Kyrie to get that second ring. He's been through a lot. There's been a lot of stuff going on, right or wrong, regardless. But I would love to see Luka and even Mark Cuban on the sidelines there pumping his fists for another championship.
The thing, too, is that, you brought up Luka and Kyrie. Now, I give the front court edge to Dallas. I mean, by the guys that Derek mentioned earlier, you have Lively, you got Gafford, PJ Washington. I think the front court goes to Dallas. But what I also look at is when I say front court, I mean the big guys. I know Tatum is a small forward. You know, you can consider him even at the power forward position sometimes. But what I look at is you've got Kyrie and Luka. These guys are going to go bonkers. We know for a fact in a couple of these games. That's where Derek comes in. That's your defensive guys. If you need to throw some length at one of them because Kyrie's a little hot, you can throw a Jaylen Brown at Kyrie. So you can throw a lot more players at both Luka and Kyrie, and that's where I think Boston has that little bit of an edge in the series. But again, if you're a Spurs fan cheering for the Mavericks, who cares? I don't care. It doesn't bother me. If you want to cheer for whoever you want, cheer for whoever you want. I hate the fact that we have people saying, well, if you're a Spurs fan, you're a diehard Spurs fan, you don't cheer for anybody.
Yeah,
hey, guess what? The Spurs didn't make it. And if you're an NBA fan, you're going to watch the games. You're going to enjoy the games. And that's what I'm going to do. Everybody's going to do that, man.
I completely agree. I know we don't root for rivals. I don't like the 49ers, right? I don't like the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, this is a football reference. But for Dallas, man, Luka and Kyrie, now look, they need to play, at the top, peak, right? Yeah. For them to win this series because Boston, they're kind of like that cockroach Rudy that's on the side of the corner there that just won't die. Kind of remind me of the Houston Astros, right? They just don't die, right? Yeah, that is the Boston Celtics. And Luka and Kyrie are going to have a Herculean effort, I believe, to win this series. And obviously everyone else is going to have to chip in as well.
Derek, we've got Jeff Garcia, Locked On Spurs. Shout out to Locked On Spurs. Great friend of Sweep the League. I've been on Locked On Spurs a couple of times, and I know Derek's been on there one time. We got to get you on there with Locked On Spurs. We'll get Derek again as well. But shout out to Jeff Garcia, Locked On Spurs, big-time supporter for Sweep the League. He's in here. And he says, Rudy, is Tatum's legacy on the line? He's been to the Eastern Conference Finals multiple times, but has not delivered Boston another title. I'm going to let you handle this, Derek. The legacy of Jason Tatum on the line. I get it. He's kind of been in the situation before. Does he need this victory to kind of start solidifying his place in the Boston lore?
Well, if I'm correct, I think he's been with them, like 6 years? And they've been, I know in the last 6 years, they've been, 5 conference finals or whatever it may be?
Yeah.
Yes, for me, it's about him winning the championship. It's not necessarily that he has to come out and be the MVP because we saw what happened in the Eastern Conference Finals. Jaylen Brown was the MVP, but Tatum still averaged 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. I think people were sleeping on that. Yeah. So for me, yes, his legacy's on the line. He's an All-NBA for the 3rd year in a row. He's first team All-NBA. And with that comes pressure. And so, yes, people are going to be watching to see if he can deliver. I think for me, it just comes down to them winning the championship. If they win the championship, the rest will take care of itself. But no doubt about it, if they don't win this year, I think it hurts his opportunities moving forward for all NBA first team and several other awards. But, yes, I'll say his legacy is on the line, but I expect him to come through with shining, with, bright colors, man. You see what I'm wearing today? And that's what I expect. I expected that Celtic to be victorious.
Now you're wearing the Celtic green, but if you have old heads like you and I, that could be considered the Brad Davis and Rolando Blackman green.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking. That green looks a little bit more.
Don't do that to me, right?
Like those other teams in Dallas in the '80s. There,
Mark McGuire and all those guys.
Mark McGuire. Let's start naming some. You had what? Rodney McCray.
Roy Tarpley, rest in peace, who I played against in high school.
Rodney McCray.
Brad Davis. Yeah, we can go on and on. Derek Harper.
Was it James Donaldson, the center?
Yeah, big James Donaldson.
Donaldson. Oh my God! See, a lot of people think, these guys, they mention names. Who are these guys? We know a lot of players from back in the day. I'm sorry, those are some Mavericks teams back in the days. I enjoyed watching, Rolando Blackman and Derek Harper and his, days with the Mavericks. Brad Davis. I mean, people think, I got a Brad Davis trading card. Who the hell is this? Well, Brad Davis was actually a pretty good player.
Yeah, that team did make it to a conference finals. I believe they played the Lakers, right?
Yeah.
And Rudy, they definitely had a lot of talent.
And you guys know Brad Davis tough as nails.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah.
We got a lot of guys that's underrated that the young people should start studying their history a little more. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you want to know the entire history of the game, and that to me, that's important. But that's just me speaking personally for myself.
Yeah.
And another underrated team in the 80s, the Milwaukee Bucks had also another tons of talent as well. There are a lot of teams that just because they don't win the championship, right, we kind of just throw under the rug. But if you look back at the 80s, the Milwaukee Bucks, they had really good teams. Unfortunately, Derek, they ran into those other the Boston Celtics, right? Just too much. But the Pistons were obviously there. The Atlanta Hawks, right? Another team that just couldn't get over the hump. But man, so many talented teams. And I know there's that trend going around, or I don't know if it died out about, we're not talking about the 90s or 80s, but
Gio, let me say this to you while you're on that subject, because we talk about relationships. And, basketball is more than just basketball. It turns into lifetime relationships. You mentioned the Milwaukee Bucks. I get sermons every Sunday from Terry Cummings, who I still think should be in the Hall of Fame, and praying for him every day to continue. I hope that he finally gets that call. But yeah, to be keeping in contact with all these guys all these years later, man, it's nothing short of a blessing.
No, Terry Cummings, listen, we can talk about who deserves to be and who doesn't, but you look at the NBA Hall of Fame, there's some guys, look, they had good careers. Some of them we can say, well, if they're in, this person should definitely have been. But Terry Cummings was, he was a hard-nosed player, and I don't know, he played in San Antonio for a while, but that guy can play. Another guy on top of my head, Tom Chambers can play too, man. If you go look at the highlights, I know people talk about his, he's a white guy, whatever. Hey, Tom Chambers could definitely play in this NBA as well.
I played against him at the end of his career in Israel, and it was sad to see. And I'm being honest, because I'm used to him, that dunk that they always show, even today with him.
Mark Jackson.
Jackson. Man, at the end of his career, he still was a good player, Gio. But of course, he had lost his first step. And he wasn't jumping nearly as high as he used to. He was still a good player. But as you know, as you get older, you got to find other ways to compensate. So he was still a smart player, but not nearly as athletic as he was in the NBA.
There's a story before we move on, Rudy, of Chris Webber saying that one of the guys he feared was Terry Cummings because Terry had this grip that he would just hold you. Hey, because I forgot what he mentioned, but he was doing something, and Terry goes, "Hey, you better stop all that." You know what I'm saying? It was a different time, right? Today's NBA is probably a flagrant, right? But back then, it's
Gio, that's who I guarded when we played in the summer leagues here. During the summer, we used to play at St. Mary's, at the little gym at St. Mary's University, and I used to go against Terry Cummings and Mike Mitchell, rest in peace.
Yeah.
So I knew if I could even compete with those guys without getting my jaw broke, man, I was on the right path.
Wow, man. Wow. St. Mary's, I used to live like 10 houses down from St. Mary's. So that was my old neighborhood growing up back in the day. Real quick, man, we want to give a quick shout out here. This is kind of off sports subject, but it is a subject. And like I said, Sweep the League is nothing but, it's sports, it's life, laugh, sports is our motto here. I want to give a quick shout out to Sith here. He's saying, "What's up, fellas?" And if you're on Twitter or X, what it's called, Sith, I saw a post for you recently, and just so man, if you ever got to reach out to people, everyone here at Sweep the League, you can definitely reach out to us. We all have bad days. We all have times where it gets a little rough. Hey, man, like I told you in the post, life happens and nothing's going to hit harder than life. It's an old Rocky, the Rocky movie. And it's very true. Life hits hard. So if you ever need anything, reach out to one of us here at Sweep the League, man. We are all brotherhood, and definitely we got your back 100%. So shout out to Sith out there. 100%. Derek, question. Mavericks go with a small lineup against the Celtics. Is that possible?
No, I don't think they should, because you really look at it, you got some athleticism with Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I think the way you combat that is with size, with guys like P.J. Washington and Gafford at that rim. And it's going to be interesting. I think you go with the lineup that's worked for you all year. You got the Luka and Kyrie in the backcourt. You got Derek Jones. You got P.J. Washington, and you got Gafford. And, of course, you also, if you do switch it up, I could see them bringing in Lively and playing him with Gafford. But small ball, I don't think I don't think that's the best way to beat the Boston Celtics. I think you have to have a size, and you have to stop Brown and Tatum from getting to that basket. And more importantly, you have to rebound the basketball to beat the Boston Celtics, because a lot of their jump shots, of course, when you're shooting a lot of threes, a lot of them are going to be long rebounds. And I think they're going to have to put their bodies on Boston and definitely stop them from getting to that basket. You cannot be letting Jaylen Brown get to the basket off 2 feet and throwing down those hammer dunks. So I think size is the best way to combat the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I saw Tim had talked about the 80s Nuggets, and I thought about Alex English as another player who can score. He can do a lot of different things. I think Dan Issel. You have
Kiki Vandeweghe,
Lafayette Lever. I mean, there's
TR Dunn. TR. You know how I know these names, Gio? Because I talked to the former general manager today. Used to be the general manager of the Denver Nuggets. His name is Pete Babcock. So he mentioned all these names that you're mentioning. And then I'll throw in another one, Elston Turner. Yeah, several guys. So, Pete, thanks for the info, my friend.
What's funny is when I think of Nuggets, I think of an underrated backcourt of like Fat Laver and Michael Adams. I mean, to me, that was always so underrated. And Michael Adams, he had the hitch jump shot where it was kind of like a type shot.
One hand push. But on and then push it with one hand. Yeah.
But it was effective. I remember watching him play, and I'm like, oh my God, he's killing it. I mean, he's killing it on the court.
Rudy. Also, David Thompson.
Sorry, go ahead, Gio. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say David Thompson was on, I think, in the beginning of the 80s with the Nuggets as well. So, I mean, that's another guy you can.
Rudy, but if you see how times have changed, the reason they didn't talk about Fats Lever, who, if you really look at it from the guard position, what guard have you seen that size that was a triple-double threat? They don't talk about. A lot of people don't remember Fat Lever. The reason they didn't talk about him and Michael Adams because they were a small backcourt. But, man, they were lethal. And then you had Lafayette getting the points, the assists, the rebounds. I mean, he did it all. And then you could bring in a guy like TR Dunn who could guard 94 feet. So that's why I tell the young people to start checking out the history of the NBA, man. You'll be surprised at how many great players. And when I say great players, they don't have to be stars. Just guys that did it all, kind of like Derek Lively, who I raved about against Minnesota. To me, he was a star.
Yeah, and, that's funny because it's like in the 80s and 90s, you had your superstars, but the true fans of the game of basketball, you could walk up to him and say, man, Gio, Derek, did you see how Dana Barros played last night? He went off from Seattle. And you're mentioning names where the most common player, the name, everybody knew that person. I mean, you knew who Dale Ellis was back then. These days, it's like, it's Steph, it's Bron, it's Giannis, and then you mentioned other guys. You mentioned, the 7th, 8th guy on a team. It's like, who, does this guy play for that? Who is this guy? Who is that guy? Back then, it was like, hey man, you see how Felton Spencer played, all these other different guys, and it's like that's when basketball to me was basketball, way back in the day. And that's what I loved about the 80s and the 90s. Chris Leha's in here. What's good, fellas? Leha, everything, man. We always hear bounce it every single night. Spurs in 5. I'm hoping he's thinking next season, Leha. Next season, definitely.
What year are you talking about? This is the wrong year, Chris. I'm sorry to tell you.
He's talking about 2025, 2026 season.
Yes. Okay. I can dig that, Chris.
Leha, that's what I'm talking about, Rudy. We're here for one another again. Shout out to Sith. We are here for everybody, man. This is a show for the people, by the people. Continue to say that. This is Sweep the League. Derek Gervin. Gio, do you think Derek White is the X factor for Boston? Don't answer that right now. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We've been here for half the show already. We've been talking NBA Finals. When we get back, Gio will give us a Derek White. I'm going to drop a Game 7 question to Gio and Derek. Then we're going to move on. We've got some NFL talk that we're going to get into. Also, why do we use the word great when it comes, especially in NBA? Why do we use the word great? We're going to break that all down here for you just a little bit. This is Sweep the League. We'll be back here in just a second.
watching Sweep the League. Subscribe and share.
Rudy Campos Jr. here from Sweep the League. Hey, make sure you go and follow Sherilyn on Instagram. Just search official Sherilyn on
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweet the League Radio.
Yeah, shout out to Sherilyn, friend of Sweep the League here. Go follow her on Instagram. It's the official Sherilyn on Instagram. Also, shout out to a guy that Derek, I think Derek knows him. I'm not too sure if he knows him for sure, but he may know him. Shout out to the Iceman, George Gervin, for giving us that drop for Sweep the League. That was back from Sweep the League Radio. So,
Hey, Rudy, can I say
How
this
much did you
quickly?
pay him, Rudy? That's a lot of money you got there.
Yeah. What's up, man?
I wanted to say they actually celebrated the 30th anniversary a few days ago of the George Gervin Youth Center.
Mhm.
I want to send a shout out to my brother and my sister as well. You guys know my sister's also the state representative for the East Side.
Yeah.
But yeah, they celebrated the 30th anniversary of the George Gervin Youth Center, and to me, that's more than we've ever could have done in the game of basketball. So I want to commend my brother and my sister for making it happen, impacting lives.
100%, man. And that's one thing about, the first thing you mentioned when you hear George Gervin or the Gervin family, it's basketball, it's San Antonio, it's everything like that. But it's also off the court for what you guys have done for the community of San Antonio, along the lines of, with David Robinson and, everybody else that's been in San Antonio. The Gervins have definitely made a massive impact. And from someone who grew up in San Antonio, born and raised in San Antonio, I would like to say thank you very much to the Gervins for that. Appreciate everything y'all have done. Continue the success that you guys provide for kids that are getting a great education over at the academy there. So appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you very much.
No worries, man. I appreciate everything. This is Sweep the League, man. We are back. Before we get to this question, Gio, my Game 7 question is coming up next. But basically, Jeff wants to know of Locked On Spurs. Do you think Derek White is the X factor for Boston? I said he was on the Boston side. You're not going to agree with me, I'm pretty sure. But go ahead.
I went with Porzingis. I'm going to say this about Derek White. I know he's a former Spur. But as I'm sitting there watching, my girlfriend's a big Pacer fan. He's a pest. He does those little things that you're watching from from opposing team. You're like, man, this guy's annoying, but he's making the right passes, right? He's taking the jump shots. He's crucial. I know he had a 38-point game, Rudy, in that Heat series. I mean, he has come up clutch for them. He's crucial. Now, I think Porzingis, in my opinion, probably a bigger X factor just because of how things happen in a series. Can you trust Derek for the entire series? You may not have to, because obviously you have those two guys in Tatum and Brown. But, man, he's crucial. He shows up big. And, man, he's a pest, but obviously in a good way for Celtics fans. But he's a big X factor in his own right because, look, he's not always going to shoot the three great, right? He's going to be hot and cold, as a lot of them are. But those rebounds, those assists, those steals, right? He had 5 steals, I think 5 or 6 steals in the closeout game against the Pacers. So, I mean, that's huge, right? That's something that people don't necessarily notice, right, when they look at the stats, from afar. But no, he's a huge X factor, and I'm rooting for Dallas, but I know as a former Spur, he's going to be prepared. He's going to be ready to go. Boston, to me, look, they have it all, right? They've been the talk of the town. I know I was talking about the Bucks, and Rudy laughed at it, and I guess rightly so. That never, granted, those two guys were hurt. But no, look, White, he's another factor as well. Look, he's annoying, but man, he makes the plays, and he does those little things, right, Derek, that you don't always see, that really just rubs off on all the players.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to Derek real quick on this question. So I want to get on from the finals here, but is it wrong for me, Derek, to say I'm going obviously Boston in 6? I'm going Boston for the win, but the left side of my brain tells me that if this gets to Game 7, we're going to probably end up seeing Dallas winning this series. I think Boston has to close it out in Game 6. Is that right for me to think that way?
Well, if it gets to Game 7, I mean, it's really scary because you don't know what Luka is capable. Well, we do know what he's capable of, and that's the scary thing. But can I say something about the X factor?
Yeah.
Because for me, the X factor is, and this is, I have 3 of the guys, but I'm only going. The main one for me is, I was going to say Hauser and Pritchard, but my main one is Al Horford.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just worried. I don't want to see Boston get wore down. And if they're not getting production from their bench, we already know what Al Horford's about. He's had a great career, but he's that guy to me that's kind of pivotal, like Lively was against Minnesota.
Yeah.
Al Horford is the guy that can knock down shots, can rebound the basketball, can make the timely passes. And to me, he's the key because he's been there before. I think he's got the experience. He knows what it takes. We know he won it with the Florida Gators. Him and Noah were playing together. So to me, he's really crucial. And if he doesn't play well, I think Boston's going to struggle because then you got your starters having to play too many minutes. Yeah. And that's what scares me the most is them getting worn out from having to guard and chase Kyrie around. They're not going to have to chase Luka, but they're going to have to deal with his physicality when he starts backing guys into the basket. So for me, it'll be Al Horford.
Yeah, Leha's saying he thought it was 2014. I think we're like 10 years a little too late for that.
That's crazy that's been 10 years.
10 years. Yeah,
the Spurs been in the finals.
All right, Derek, you got a locked on question here from Jeff Garcia, Locked On Spurs. Looking back, Derek, did Boston win the trade with the Spurs for Derek White? I have mixed feelings on that. I didn't like the trade, but if you don't make the trade, you don't get Victor Wembanyama. So
I like the trade because we knew at some point we knew that Murray or Derek White was going to have to go. Mm-hmm. And they chose to get rid of Derek White first, which I thought was a mistake. But yeah, I think Boston definitely won the trade because, like Gio just talked about, Derek White is one of the most underappreciated guys in the entire NBA. And if you wanted to, you could have even had him in the MVP voting with Jaylen Brown. I mean, he played that well. He did. He's the timely guy. Whatever you need him to do, he's so good that people haven't even really been talking about Drew Holiday, who's one of the best defenders of all time. True. Derek White has played so well. They acted like Drew Holiday is an afterthought. So, yes, I'll say that Boston definitely won that trade. No doubt about it.
100%, man. 100%. I'm going to bring something up here. This is Sweep the League. Derek Irvin, Coach Gio, Rudy Campos Jr. Appreciate Jeff on being here. I'm going to bring up something that we're going to bring because it's part of the Spurs here. And I'm trying to get it for you guys right now. So give me 1 second. There we go. Sharing the screen, guys. So this has been kind of rumored today. There's been a lot of rumor. There's been a lot of talk. You know, you had about Topic saying that the Spurs have not contacted him, just the Spurs doctors. We've seen the big, Derek, I've told you 100 times before all the talk of the draft, I was telling you about Tijan Saloon from France and how I think the Spurs are going to be on his radar. They're going to have him on their big board. Now all the talk comes out that he's going to be on the Spurs big board. They're looking at him. But this comes out here that the possibility of trading the 4th and 8th pick to move up to number 1 because you have the chance to get a Zachary Reese-Sachet or an Alex Sarr. In this draft, because it's just a terrible draft. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a terrible, terrible draft. Now, no disrespect to these players at all. There's no disrespect mentioned. But when I say terrible draft, you don't have the generational. You don't have the superstar right out of the gate type of player in this draft. But does it make any sense for even the rumors to fly about the Spurs trading both picks to get to number 1? I just don't see it happening.
Well, it makes sense because you have Victor will be heading into his 2nd year, and the Spurs are trying to figure out everything. They're doing, like I said, once again, their due diligence and figuring out what makes the most sense. And you also have to factor in, they're talking to Victor as well, and what kind of players that he likes to be surrounded by. So, you always told me, Rudy, that if you were a GM, you have to explore all options, right?
Yes, sir.
And so that's what they're doing. Me personally, I wouldn't want to move up to number 1 this year. I would if it was 2026 coming up and then Cooper Flag was in there.
Yeah.
But they're going to do whatever they can to make it better for Victor this coming year. For me, they need to be trying to find out get a couple veterans and then build off of that. Klay Thompson's still available, I believe, and maybe another guy out there. So DeJounte Murray, I've been hearing his name. So, yeah, I think you got to bring in a couple of veterans first, and then you play off of that, and then you start bringing in the other players.
Yeah, Gio, I want to get your thoughts on this real quick before we move on here. Trying to trade up to number 1 in a draft where, honestly, there's really no clear-cut number 1 guy, and pairing him with Victor. I mean, Derek's right. I think if you're going to make any type of move, you're trying to get veteran help and a proven type of player to get, to pair with Victor. But again, the rumor mills are always going to fly. This is the time of season we're going to hear rumors left and right. Going up to number 1, does it make sense for San Antonio?
Probably not. I would look to trade. No, Rudy, we talked about this. I think it was last week. You got to weigh all your options.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't like the word generational talent. Listen, Victor is a generational talent. He does things that we've never seen before. You need to surround him with the best players as possible. And you're looking at through every corner, through every crack, through every crevice. We need to figure out how to get this team better. Because what I saw last year, and when I went to that game in Indiana, and I hate to bring this game up, we lost by almost 50. Because, Rudy, we lost by almost 50 points. I mean, it didn't just sit right with me. You have players jacking up shots. Victor should be grabbing the ball every time he's down the court. But anyway, that's a different subject. But yeah, Rudy, look, you need to look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the guy in Cleveland wearing a Spurs shirt the other day?
No, that was not Garland. That was somebody completely different.
I saw that photo, and I said, "Well, no, I mean, I didn't repost it.
Yeah,
I didn't tag anybody, but I was like, wait a minute, is that what I think it is?" But I never really looked into it because I figured it was fake. But Rudy, I'm pulling with Derek. You need to look at everything, and you need to give him talent. I cannot wait for a 3rd, 4th year. This is the time to at least improve. You're obviously not going to win a championship next season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty, clear. But you need to improve, and now is the time. So whatever they do, trust the process, as Joel Embiid once said. So we'll see.
Well, and that's the thing is that Spurs fans are so impatient, and this is kind of the timeline that I'm looking at. It's you draft Victor, you see what you have. Now you know what you have. You know what you need. You know what type of players you need around Victor. You go out and you take a step. Now, in other words, you open the door. There's Victor Wembanyama. There's your team. Now the next step in year 2 is you take that first step. And that's all it is. Take the first step. You're a baby. You're getting ready to walk. You're going to take those first baby steps. That's coming up this year. You make a couple of improvements. You get a couple of players. You maybe add a few more wins. It may be another lost season. Oh, well. Why? 2025 is here. It is the year of the Spurs. 2025, 2026 is the season.
You know what? Let's bring up football real quick because we talk about Caleb, right? And surrounding the talent, right, Derek? What did the Bears do, right? They surrounded him with a pretty good talent. I don't care what I hear from camp and all that stuff about him not having to stay late, blah, 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 whatever. But surrounding him with talent. And look at CJ Stroud, right? The Texans surrounded him with pretty good young talent, especially at the receiver position. He's flourished. All I'm saying is let's progress. Let's not go backwards because I don't think Spurs fans want to see what we saw last year because at one point already we said they probably ain't going to win 10 games. I mean, that's how bad it was. Point of the season.
Yeah. I mean, and I said if you bring the same team back, if you make no moves and you add a couple of rookies, you bring the same team back, I put them right around that 28 win mark.
30 win, yeah.
I mean, that's where I've got them next year. So if they go out and get a Darius Garland, then I can maybe put them up to around the 31, 32 wins. I still don't see a play-in tournament. I definitely don't see a playoff team, but I do see a play-in team possibility, but it's going to take more than just Darius Garland, in my opinion. There's no way.
If you get Darius Garland, though, the first thing you have to do is tell him that you don't need him to be on the Autobahn. You need him to start driving the speed limit a little bit. That's part of his problem. I think he's a really good player, but he plays too fast.
Yeah.
And that's the only problem I have with him. He's a guy that can get you 20 or 25 a night if you need it, but he has to learn to start pacing himself a lot more. And if that were to happen, then I would love to see him in San Antonio. But he has to learn to slow down a little bit and start assessing the situation a little more, I'll say.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? How about Jimmy Butler? Go trade for Jimmy.
Jimmy, to me, is one of the guys that I could see as a Spur, but if I'm going to pay top dollar for Jimmy, I can pay a little less and go get the one guy who I've been saying to go get secretly under the table, and that's Lauri Markkanen. He makes all the sense in the world.
That's the guy.
Gio,
you like Jimmy, man. I like Jimmy too, but in Miami, Jimmy. They treat Jimmy like he's a superstar, man. Jimmy's been getting beat up lately. He's been out with injuries and all that. And then sometimes you don't know if Jimmy's really he doesn't show that fire all the time. And that kind of bothers me.
Jimmy's his own man. He does his own thing. And Jimmy's not, I wouldn't say he's the biggest team guy for morale. I don't know. Listen, come playoff time, if Jimmy's healthy, hey, he's going to give you everything he's got. And we've seen some of the playoff runs, but I was just throwing Jimmy out there.
He's more focused on coffee, selling his coffee for $20 a cup. And,
what, Derek? Come on.
And being in the media dealing with
he's in South Beach. Derek, do you blame him? He's over there in Miami. I mean, he's got Cuban sandwiches, he's doing this and that. I mean,
but he's also worried about, he's dealing with stuff like Shakira and all that kind of stuff, man. That Spurs need somebody that's going to come in that's focused on helping them become a better team right away. And I think Jimmy's a really, really good player, but I don't know at this point in his career if he's focused enough to come here and do what they need, what they have, what the Spurs expect from him.
It's Lauri Markkanen or bust. That's what I'm going to kind of go with, man.
I think he changes. Hey, Rudy, if you bring in Markkanen right now, that's not a 30-win team.
No, I think with Markkanen and a quality point guard, you're probably looking 36, maybe.
But you're going to lose Keldon and maybe Vassell as well. You're going to for sure lose one of them. And I don't know right now. Keldon's going to be moved either way it goes, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think Keldon goes. I think if you're trading for Markkanen, I think the 4th and 8th, Keldon, and next year's Spurs pick, very particular, not the Hawks, next year's Spurs pick, that would be enough to get, I think, Lauri Markkanen away from Utah. And then you'll go with the lineup. And then it kind of makes sense to go look at, the possibilities of signing a Klay Thompson, kind of for cheap.
Rudy, can I ask you and Gio a quick question? Because we talk about the Spurs, right? And I know at some point we've heard DeJounte Murray. We've even heard Chris Paul recently, heard Trae Young. You guys don't believe in a healthy Mr. Wesley in the backcourt?
Blake Wesley? I don't know if I would give him the reins just yet, but we saw progress this year. We saw progress, but I don't know if giving him the reins would be my. Okay,
the reason. Tell me this: does he remind you a little bit of? Does he have? If you look at his game, and then you go to Detroit and you look at Jaden Ivey, is he much worse than Jaden Ivey?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I'm saying at some point it can't always be veterans. You might have that guy on your bench. You just haven't given him the opportunity to shine, and that's what I worry about with a guy like Wesley. And then he leaves here like a Derek White, and then he goes to shine somewhere else. I'm not saying he has to be the starter, but I mean they have to really think about keeping him, because he has size as well. I know Trey Jones is smaller. I like Wesley and he also can defend. Yeah. I'm not saying that he has to be the starter, but sometimes you can't give up on guys like that so soon.
Does he remind you guys a little bit of Antonio Daniels, the way he plays?
To me, well, he's a little bigger. I think looks taller, I'll say.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Gio.
No, to say it sounded like Derek's calling for a new coach in San Antonio.
Well, I love Pop, man, but I mean, I think it's a new era today. To be honest with you, I'm tired of seeing all these older guys coaching that have been around for all these years. I still believe in Pop, but man, we got to move quick. San Antonio, we're used to winning now, and I know Rudy said 2025, 26. But I think the fans want to win this coming year, and I really, really think Victor wants to cement himself this coming year because he doesn't want to be hearing about Luka or Anthony Edwards or Jason Tatum being the face of the league. And I think he's ready to move on that now and show people that he's truly the face of the league.
Yeah, I think I'm probably used to losing because I'm a Falcon fan. So I'm kind of just used to losing as is anyway. So
and you know what Devin Booker would be? Hey, if they can get Devin Booker, I know that's
I like that.
A dream situation. But if you get Devin with Wemby, I wouldn't hate it.
What about DeRozan coming back? Because he shot more threes than he has in the past.
I do like.
We talked about that, Derek, a few months ago. I wouldn't mind that either. Mm-hmm. Look. Get the talent in, and also look, you want to sell to your season ticket holders. They're going to buy tickets anyway because, let's be real, it's only a ticket in town. But look, let's get the pipe moving and let's get some players here. I'm tired of what I saw last season. It was bad.
The reason I like you saying Devin Booker even over DeRozan, because I think that brings more notoriety with bringing in Devin Booker, who's pretty much who's been an all NBA player. And I think that would attract some other guys around the league when you bring in a name like a Devin Booker.
So I was actually asked about Chris Paul coming in, and my first thing was Chris Paul is not on San Antonio's radar both ways. They're not looking at him, and he's not looking at San Antonio unless the Spurs bring in all that talent to surround Wemby. So if you go in and get, hey, we're getting Clay for cheap. Hey, we're trading for Laurie or we're trading for Devin Booker. When those guys come in, then you can go and get a Chris Paul to run that team. And that makes more sense for him because Paul's at he's at the part of his career where he just needs to win. He needs to get to that title game again in the NBA Finals and needs to get that ring. So he's going to go where he's going to have the best opportunity to win. But one thing that we mentioned, and I don't want to get into this right now. I want to wait for another show to get into this with you guys. But going into this offseason, I've been saying it loud and clear, and I've talked to Derek about it, and I mentioned it to Gio. The Western Conference is about to go through a quote-unquote sports rapture. There are going to be so many teams that are going to have players disappearing from their squad. You're not going to see the three-headed monster in Phoenix. You're not going to see the all-star trio and all-star, foursome in the Clipperland. You're going to have a lot of these teams are going to be broken up, and that's what's going to happen when it comes to hell. I've even said it. Karl Anthony Towns is more than likely gone from Minnesota. They're going to want to pay Naz Reid and not pay Towns. That's the way it's going to be. It's going to be a Gobert, Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid type team.
Rudy Gobert.
Hey, Gio, are you another one? Now, you got to realize this. People talk about Rudy, getting cooked on the perimeter by Luka. But they don't give Rudy credit for all the shots that he alters around that basket, man. He caused problems for a lot of players around that basket, and people need to recognize that. I know a lot of people don't like Rudy for whatever the reasons may be, and I know he has bad hands and stuff when you throw him passes. But, man, everybody doesn't cook Rudy Gobert. He's still a defensive force. They didn't give him Defensive Player of the Year for no reason, even though we know that Victor was really the best defensive player of the year. But Rudy was right there on his tail. It could have only been between Wembanyama, Rudy, and Anthony Davis. Those are the only three guys I saw in the running. So I can't just totally act like the man is not out there on the floor. He does a lot.
I don't want to – yeah, I completely agree, Derek. Look, I don't want to disrespect the man. I'm not the biggest fan. And I think this also goes back to some of the things he did a few years ago with the whole pandemic and COVID. And he's touching everything. And then the fact that he told the NBA, well, if you don't do something, I'm going to do something. Well, what are you going to do, Rudy? Because the last I checked, I saw you getting choked by somebody.
Well, I was going to say he did it, sir. Mm-hmm. What do you mean? He said he's going to do something. You just mentioned it.
Yeah, no, someone did something to him.
Well, no, but I'm saying he was part of it, so give the man a little credit. I mean,
I don't know if it's because he's a Frenchman or what. People seem to really like to pick at him. Shaq does it all the time. He seems to be a punching bag. Like, I'm not going to disrespect him. Look, he's in the NBA. I mean, that's a tough league to get into. But all I'm saying is I would have voted for Victor, but I know Rudy has a lot of the other stats that, obviously point in his favor. The stat, though, has become it's just a big man's award, basically, right? Like, how many guards have actually won the defensive player of the year? Not many. I know Jordan did, obviously. The GOAT, as everyone, just want to make sure everyone knows. Gary Payton.
Drew Holiday has never won Defensive Player of the Year, which I think he's earned it a few times. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Gary Payton won it, right? I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very few. It's a big man award, and Rudy, he's just being a punching bag. And some of the things he says, I'm like, dude, you're a fake tough guy. Okay. But look, they're probably going to go forward without Carl, as Rudy said, and keep not. Do the Spurs say, hey, maybe have a front court tandem there?
No.
I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but
No, we don't
Victor
need
needs the ball.
No,
I know. I'm just saying.
Guys shooting threes,
Yeah, he shoot way too many threes, man.
We don't need
Porzingis than cut.
We don't need the greatest big man shooter of all time in San Antonio. We don't need that type of stuff here.
That's funny.
Cat, I think, is gone. There's going to be a lot of teams in the West. It's going to be a ton of teams. Golden State's going to blow it up. I mean, you're going to see a lot of these teams in the West it's going to be a different look in the Western Conference. Jeff's in here. He spoke to Zachary Reese-Archet today. Obviously, one of the top 2 picks right now in most mock drafts. Said that San Spurs have been scouting him, but they haven't had any direct contact, workout talks with him. It's a draft where you're going to get the same player at 1 that you can at 8. I mean, it's just there's really no clear-cut number 1 guy. I think teams are just going to do their due diligence on all these guys in the draft. The greatest basketball player of all time, Bronny James. Yeah, they should draft Bronny James, right?
Oh my
Hey, Rudy, what about the big fella from Connecticut?
Klingman.
What do you think about him?
I like his game, and honestly, if Houston stays at 3 and I'm the Rockets, I'm probably drafting Klingman. With Steven Adams there, I think he works really good with Sengun in Houston.
Well, what about the Spurs because we don't know the Zach Collins situation yet, do we?
No, not yet.
So you bring in that young fella, man, because he kind of reminds me of you bringing in a Pirtle.
Yeah,
Pirtle worked pretty good here, underappreciated. But, he did a lot. I would love to see the young guy come here. I think he rebounds the basketball. He plays hard. He's not much different from a Derek White.
No.
I mean, from a Derek Lively. I'm sorry. And I would love to see a young guy with that kind of energy who knows about winning already. And you pair him up next to Victor, and then you bring in some offensive guys around them. I would love to see that.
Clinton would be good in San Antonio. Do you take him at 4? I don't know if you take him at 4. You definitely could. He's definitely a top 5 talent.
He fits in, but I can see him fitting here really easily.
Yeah, I think, Klingon is the guy that you can definitely look at. For me, if I'm doing my big 3 on the big board, right now for the Spurs, at the 3 top prospects, in my opinion, for them are Stephon Castle out of UConn, Dalton Connect as another is. And I'll tell you why I like Connect, and then after that is Tijan Saloon. For me, Dalton Connect is probably the one guy who can come into the league on a certain team, but keep in mind that can probably be a starter right away, that can contribute right away. He is very, very athletic. I mean, massively athletic.
You remember Matt Harpring? You remember Matt Harpring?
Exactly.
He's a better. He has potential to me to be a better version of Matt Harpring, and that's saying a lot. I don't know if a lot of people know Matt Harpring was a really, really good player and very athletic, and I wouldn't mind seeing a guy like him come in, or he reminds me of Keith Van Horn. I'm just a very athletic
I was about
guy.
to say that, Derek. You just literally read my mind. I thought in my head, Keith Van Horn.
Yeah, and the better version of Keith Van Horn. I know Keith Van Horn didn't have a great NBA career, but he was the reason why the Mavericks won that title. Yeah, it was the reason why the Mavericks won that title. So definitely, but yeah, I mean, Dalton Connect is one guy I would love to see in San Antonio. I've never been on the Reed Shepherd. I've never been on the Dillingham train. I just neither one of those guys excite me. And you hear all the people popping about Dillingham and Dilly, and I've never been on that train at all. I don't have him anywhere near now. Topic with the injury, I remember I tweeted out this morning that he's probably going to drop out of the lottery, and he may even want to take his name out of the draft and wait until next year just to get, the injury concerns taken care of and all that stuff. But the draft's going to be coming up, I believe, on the 26th of June. We're going to try to provide some draft coverage that night for the first round. So we'll keep everybody updated. This is Sweep the League. We got a little bit of time left. Let's get to some football here. Then after that, we're going to get into the great talk here. We're going to try to kill this here in the next 10 minutes or so. Let's do this football talk real quick. All right, so basically football-wise here, yesterday I talked about the Dallas Cowboys. You have a trio here. Justin Jefferson got paid. He got the bag. And what I'm looking at is for Justin Jefferson, everybody was like, well, CeeDee Lamb's got to get paid. They got to pay CeeDee Lamb. I completely get that, but you only have enough money to pay for CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak Prescott. Now, I'm basing this off of current salary cap situation. I know the new money is going to come in. You still have streaming money that's coming in. You got all that stuff. So they can go over the cap and sign all three of these guys. I made mention that you have to re-sign Dak and that either CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons is going to be the odd man out. One of those guys will be gone. Now you shake your head. No, I got to tell you this. The reason why is because there's no quarterback you're going to be able to get out there free agency wise coming up within the next 3 or 4 years. You've got to wait. If you want a guy like Herbert, he's not going to be available. You want a guy like Burrow, he's not going to be available. Mahomes, these guys are not going to be available for when the Cowboys need a quarterback when Dak's contract is gone. You mean to tell me you're going to go Trey Lance, a guy that got ran out of San Francisco? There's no way that Trey Lance is the answer. There's no way Trey Lance is the answer.
We don't know.
Are you sure about that? Because people were pretty much giving up on Geno Smith early in his career, and some of those guys, they do pan out. It's just a process. It takes a few years. I wouldn't give up on the Trey Lance this early. I mean, there's a reason the 49ers, they saw something in him at the beginning. Yeah. So even when they drafted him, they ended up getting rid of him. But sometime, man, you gotta give these young guys a chance. Nobody believe. Look at Jordan Love.
That's true.
Well, Jordan Love. Yeah, so Jordan Love.
Yeah, so you got to give some of these guys an opportunity, man. And you really think about it, it's just like basketball. Some guys play better under the bright lights. They might not show everything. They might struggle a little bit in practice or whatever. But when those lights come on, man, guys shine. So you got to factor that in as well. Some of these young guys are going to continue to ascend as their careers mature.
Derek brought up Geno Smith. We talk about Jordan Love. Looks, Baker Mayfield, right? He gets cut a few years ago. Yeah. Goes with the Rams. Sean McVay, he goes on a pretty decent run. I mean, the Rams were bad that season with so many injuries. But Sean McVay takes Baker, right? Gets him to the point where, hey, the Bucs go ahead and sign him for a 1-year deal cheap. And look what Baker Mayfield just did, right? You kind of took that next step. For a ton of money for Baker Mayfield. Depending on where you go, the system, there's so much in football that goes along, Rudy. I understand, Rudy, your Falcons haven't been in the final body, but it doesn't mean the Cowboys can't.
I'm going to bring that up.
So, but no, look, Trey Lance, if I'm the Cowboys, I sign those two other guys because those are franchise down the line, also players. I just don't think Dak Prescott, you've seen it already, Rudy. Playoffs, normally a first-round exit. This could be a year, though, where they're actually probably worse than they've been in quite some time. As we talked about, Rudy, they haven't really done much to their team.
You're falling into the quicksand. I'm going to tell you why.
I don't think so, because the Eagles have gotten better. The Giants have gotten better.
But you call me crazy. Call me crazy. But they actually did what they were supposed to do in the offseason, and that is build that offensive line. That was number one. They did that through the draft. They got two of the better offensive linemen in the draft. So solidified, offensive line done. The only real weakness on that offense now is the running back position. Now, Zeke Elliott's not the answer. We know they don't have Rico Diddle is not the answer as well. We know that there's really no running back on the Cowboy squad right now. I'll admit to that. But securing the offensive line.
I like Tyler.
Tyler's good. Cooper Beebe is massive for the position they got him at is massive. So again, the offensive line's good. But the reason why I'm saying this, and this is my take on this, is why you signed Dak Prescott. Because if say Trey Lance isn't that guy, you're gonna waste 4 years before you even have a sniff of getting one of these other guys, and then you're gonna go out and drafting guys, and it's the turntable. It's the whole merry-go-round again. Let's draft this guy. Let's put him in. Doesn't work. We got to draft another quarterback. You're starting to waste draft picks on quarterbacks, praying that they turn out to be good. So the point that I brought up last night was this. It's easier to replace a wide receiver one than it is a starting quarterback like Dak Prescott. So CeeDee Lamb means the world. But these days, man, you can go find a wide receiver in the draft. And a lot of these younger guys who get drafted in the 6th round, 5th round, they can be number one. They have the capabilities of being number one. So I don't mind if you pass on CD because you can always go draft a number one. Now, the case of Michael Parsons, Gio, you guys like me, you study the draft. You're starting to see a lot more of these hybrid guys coming out. So can you replace a Micah Parsons in the draft? Yes, you can. You really can. That's where I'm getting at. These two positions are easier to fill than the quarterback.
Rudy, I got to ask about that because when you mentioned earlier, you talked about Justin Jefferson, right?
Uh-huh.
So when you talk about a guy his caliber, CD is not much behind him.
No.
If I'm correct, doesn't CD has 35 touchdowns? Jefferson has 31. I'm not saying he's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
But I don't think guys like CD come along every day either. I would rather take a chance on him. Micah Parsons seems to be a guy that talks a lot. He plays well throughout the season. And then he's had some James Harden moments in the playoffs. Just being real. He's a great player, but he's come up short. But a guy like CD, I don't think they come along every day. Man.
I think, Derek. No, I was gonna say CD. Listen, I watched a lot of Justin Jefferson. He's special. I see some of the things he does on that field, and he's made Kirk Cousins' life, and he's gonna make the next quarterback's life a lot better. But Dak Prescott, really, at what point?
That's the question, Gio. Thank you.
At what point is Dak the man? You're saying
no,
replace.
No.
So then why would you spend money? Well, then why would you spend money on him, Rudy?
So then I go back to you on this. Dak is not the guy. I've said that a million times. Who the hell's the guy?
Then you go out there and get him. You pay scouts. You pay scouts to go on the road, watch these college games. You need to replace Dak Prescott. The time is now. What are we going to see this year? This might be actually the worst year because I'm not sure they're going to be very good. I'm thinking 6 to maybe 8 wins for the Cowboys. I'm not me? 6 to 8 wins, Rudy. 6 to 8 wins.
No,
I'm not seeing.
I cannot see 6 to 8.
I'm not seeing a whole lot. And then you have a lame duck coach who's about to get fired because
he should have been
every
fired
week
a long time ago.
Jerry Jones is making comments, Derek, about this and that. I'm telling you, I don't think they're going to be a very good football team. And if that's the case.
I saw 12 wins. I saw at least 12 wins again.
I'm on the 11 to 12 win, thing for the Cowboys.
I'm telling you, this could be no running game. The offensive line is aging. You did draft 2 guys. The first guy, I don't even believe he's ready yet. That's more of a few years down the line. BB could definitely fit in and play potentially right away, but you have an older offensive line and your defense. I'll give them this. They got some guys coming back, and I think Zimmer will get the best, but Zimmer does kind of weigh on some of his players. He's kind of a hard-nosed type of guy. Is he going to fit with this new school mentality? We saw in Minnesota, it was up. He leaves. I think 6 to 8. I don't see a very good, potentially football team. And I'm telling you, McCarthy is on the Rudy McCarthy's going to be on the hot seat, Rudy.
6 and 11, no, Gio. 6 and 11. Oh my goodness.
I don't trust
McCarthy. Should never have been hired to begin with.
Listen, the window of opportunity in sports, it dwindles. And every few years we see these teams recycle, right? The Eagles took some time off. They got hurt. They're back now, right? I think it's going to take another cycle for this team to get back. And I think it's Dak Prescott's going to be I think it's his time. I'm honestly saying 6 to 8 wins. I'm telling you, I really don't think they're going to be a very good football team.
I see 11 to 12 wins. I see on a low end 10 wins. I would give them 10. But this is, I guess this is the point. I actually had a lot of people in the chat last night surprisingly agree. If I had to take one guy out of the trio and I took Dak Prescott out of the way, I said there's 2 guys left. If it is me, I'm probably not going to re-sign Micah Parsons. That is the one guy that I probably wouldn't re-sign. Only because I feel if you're going to keep Dak, you've got to give him his weapon and CeeDee Lamb. On the defensive side, again, just looking at the drafts, the most recent drafts this year, I mean, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, I mean, you had Liatu coming out. I think every year you're seeing the better versions of defensive ends and hybrid linebackers coming out. So to me, to say, am I going to pay top dollar for who's probably the best defensive player in the game right now? I would probably balk at it, knowing that I can probably go get a couple of draft a couple of guys who can give me similar stats combined.
So do you think the Chiefs should have not signed Chris Jones? I mean, he's been an outstanding interior guy. If they don't have him, I don't think they win that Super Bowl.
But did they have to pay Tyreek Hill? No. So when Chris Jones was resigned, again,
Mahomes is Dak Prescott is not Patrick Mahomes.
He's not Patrick Mahomes.
That's not even close. So,
but what I'm saying is that if they had to have paid Tyreek Hill, do they sign Chris Jones? Probably not.
No, but I think
there's no money left.
That's different though. Pat Mahomes is a generational. He's been phenomenal.
100%.
Super Bowls. To me, Dak Prescott, I just don't see it.
But what you got to look at is Justin Jefferson signed the highest deal for a wide receiver, only to have who throw him the ball? Sam Darnold? I mean, it doesn't help out a whole lot if you're paying your top receiver top dollar and he's going to struggle to get the ball. That's what I'm saying.
But we don't know yet about Trey Lance.
Don't. We don't know about Trey Lance. But that's what I'm trying to say, is are you going to hope that Trey Lance is the guy, pay CeeDee Lamb, pay Micah Parsons, say Trey's not the guy? You have all this money tied up on CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. You can't go get a guy to get the ball to CD.
If Geno Smith can get a contract, I find it hard to believe that there's not someone else who's better than Geno Smith who could be the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, who could do as good of a job.
There's one thing I think some people have forgotten. We have to give Dak some credit now. Wasn't he second in the league for MVP voting?
100%.
I'm not saying that Dak doesn't stat him up, pat him up, do everything else in between.
He's not going to. I hear you.
I just think if you want the guy, you're paying
to get over the hump. Yeah.
To get over the hump. And this is Dallas. We're not talking about Minnesota. We're not talking about Atlanta. We're not talking about all these other teams. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, the quote-unquote America's team. That's your quarterback, at least for right now, under this coaching regime, which I do not like. Then that's the guy. Because think about this. If Sean McVay was the coach, you don't think Dak Prescott would be a better quarterback?
Or
different system.
Or probably gone because the Rams traded Jared Goff in his prime and they shipped him to Detroit. So, look, I think also coaching is also a thing as well. Mike McCarthy was touted as someone who obviously won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, and he was watching a ton of film the year before. They had that interview where they went to his house, and he had all those tapes up. Well, guess what? You also went and played the 49ers last year, and you got just literally destroyed on national television. That's your coach. So I'm saying also coaching behind my mind also plays a big part, because you see a lot of guys, Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, right? A lot of guys who went to the right situation and have flourished, but also the expectations are different. The Cowboys are up here, right? Like Baker and Geno are what? Down here, right? Dak is having to live up to Troy Aikman, all this other stuff. And I just don't think for what that is looking like, he's not the man. And I think it's time to move on. And we'll find out next season if my 6 to 8 wins is correct. Because I do think this is a 500 football team next season.
Hey, Rudy, before we get off the air, can I mention, since we've been talking football, I can't get off without mentioning it, the loss of Larry Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
yeah, that's terrible.
We lost one of the greatest guys that ever put on a football uniform. I won't even call him a Cowboy legend. I'll just call him an NFL legend. And I want to send my condolences to the family of Larry Allen. Man, that's a huge loss, and he's going to be missed. And the guy, I mean, we talk about being at the top of your sport. There's Larry Allen. So rest in peace, Larry. And I'm sending my condolences to your family as well.
He was a beast. I mean, Sonoma State. I mean, the Cowboys were able to draft him in the second round. What a steal! What a draft they say. You know, we talk about the top steals. How about that guy in the second round? What he meant? A team coming off of a Super Bowl, right? He comes in, starts right away. He's throwing people around. He bench pressed what 600 and something pounds.
700.
Okay,
700 pounds.
700-pound bench press.
Yeah.
6-time first team All Pro. A ton of Pro Bowls as well. Just a man amongst boys. He's definitely in the top 10 of all time great offensive linemen. I tend to have tackles kind of ahead of guards, but man, you look at his career. He was outstanding, and just go, if anyone who's listening, if you've never seen him play, go put the tape on. Verdi, there's a play where actually an interception happens.
New Orleans Saints.
The Saints. Go put that, Verdi, that man, his size running, I mean, out of this, the speed that he had. There's a game against the Colts where John Madden is just beside himself, right? Because Larry's pulling, he's knocking people out, knocking helmets out, and it's just a beauty to watch. The offensive linemen don't get a lot of love, but man, he was a joy. You know, I didn't get obviously the time to watch him until the later of his career, but man, he was that was a man, Derek.
Close as you can get to perfection.
As close as he did, and he got a Super Bowl as well. So, man, he was so good.
Yeah, we are sending our condolences out to Larry Allen and his family. You know, gone way too soon, and also recently as well. I know you guys hadn't been on the show, but recently losing Bill Walton is another guy that was a tough loss. And you know, before we go, we got to get out of here real quick. Barry Beast is in here. Shout out to 9:30 a.m. The Answer. That's Barry. Is a legend, radio legend. Barry Beast there. Wanting to talk about Stanley Cup. I actually was gonna DM him sometime this week because I need to get him on the show so we can talk some hockey. I follow hockey very little, but I know him and his son Carson have a hockey podcast, so we definitely got to get them.
Rudy, I want to ask for a favor while Barry Bessie's on here. I have a friend that I've done radio shows with. Mm-hmm. His name is Michael Robertson.
Yeah.
And he covers the Stanley Cup Finals. He covers the Warriors. He's in the Bay Area, man. I wish you would let me bring him on this show. And we could talk some Stanley Cup Finals, man. The guy is there at all the games. He puts the videos on Facebook. I would love to bring him on the show. And I think that would make Barry happy. And we might even learn a little bit more about hockey.
Oh, I'm 100% for that.
I don't watch as much hockey as I used to, but I'm going with the Panthers in this series. As someone who's from New York, I was rooting for the Rangers, and obviously the Panthers are moving on. I think they held the Rangers' top 2 scorers pretty good in that series, so I'm going with the Florida Panthers.
Against who, Gio?
they're playing the Edmonton Oilers of Canada, and
the reason
Canada
I
hasn't
mentioned
had
Edmonton
one for a
Oilers-
while.
Well, the Edmonton Oilers. Who's their greatest player of all time?
Wayne Gretzky.
There's some-
And
yeah.
Canada hasn't won. Canada hasn't won in a long time. That country is dying for a Stanley Cup. Florida's had it. I think, Rudy, the last 5 years, Tampa Bay Lightning has been in the Stanley Cup. They've won, and now the Florida Panthers are in for the second year. Give me Florida in 7. I think it's going to be an entertaining series.
So Barry's got Oilers in 6.
I don't watch as much. I don't watch nearly much anymore, if not that much at all. But I'm going with the Panthers.
1993.
It's been 31 years. The last win, 31 years ago.
Win. Jeez, man, 31 years. Holy cow, that's a long time, man. That's a long time. You know what? Because it's the Oilers, I'm going to go with the Oilers, and I'll go with Barry in 6. And the only reason why is because when I hear Oilers, I immediately think Warren Moon and Haywood Jeffries and who's it? Curtis Duncan, a lot of these guys, Lorenzo Wright. I mean, I'm talking all these guys from back in the day.
No, it's a travesty that Warren had to go to Canada, Rudy, to play quarterback and then come to the National Football League and did what he did. Warren Moon, if in the NFL in the 80s, it would have been.
We're talking about him like the other greats that they talk about. These
really
Brady's
are.
And these,
I mean, he went to Washington up there in the Pacific Northwest, and to see his highlights, Rudy, then for them to tell him, hey, you're not going to make it in the NFL, and he has to go to Canada. He wins a ton of great cups, and then he goes with the Oilers, and, obviously he's part of one of the greatest comebacks as the Bills came back to win that playoff game. But Warren Moon, one of the great throws of the football, but we'll ever see again.
Oh, definitely, man. So we didn't have time to get into the great talk. We'll get into the great talk here for another show here. Also, we've got a lot more talk coming up this week. Tomorrow night, actually, we have James Pledger, ESPN Sports Stars own James Pledger, is going to be joining us on the show. We'll see who else will be coming up. Also, Thursday, I'm working on mock draft guy for NFL football coverage. He's going to give us some insight possibly on the 2024 rookies in the NFL, who's going to make splashes there. Also, we'll look to the 2025 draft as well. That'll be on Thursday's edition of Sweep the League. You'll probably end up seeing Gio, Derek again sometime this week back on Sweep the League. And then Friday, we've got our giveaway. We've got our afternoon delight going on Friday as well. Also, we'll try to get a night show in there so we can give as much stuff away. But, man, appreciate you guys joining me on tonight. Barry's still in here. He's got to watch him play Edmonton. So, apparently, Barry's all good for Robertson to come on to talk some hockey. So, we'll see if we can get that squared away. We'll get that whole matchup going here. We've got was it Edmonton against Florida? Gio taking Florida. The rest of the world is taking Edmonton, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, first take, you better look out because here we come. You hear that, Stephen A. Smith and your crew?
Stephen A. Smith been going through a lot. Stephen A. Smith been going through a lot on TV lately because he don't seem to keep his mouth.
Timing, you know how timing is everything, right? So here we come.
Exactly.
Hey, one thing I want to say.
All right, come on.
Stop hating on Caitlin Clark. You WNBA players getting on my nerves, cheap shotting her, doing all this extra stuff.
This is a whole conversation.
This lady just gave you a charter flights, all this stuff, and this is how you treat her? Show her some respect.
This whole conversation is one to have because I know Derek's got stuff to say. You've got stuff to say. Let's keep the Caitlin Clark WNBA stuff for like. We're going to talk anything WNBA. Again, I'm giving another shout out to Tisha Penichero, my favorite WNBA player, Sacramento Monarchs again. But yeah, we'll talk about Caitlin Clark's situation on the next Sweep the League. For Derek Irvin, Coach Gio, this is Rudy Campos Jr. Till we see you guys again later. Remember, James Pledger is on tomorrow for Sweep the League. Tomorrow night, we'll be back at our regular time. Later, guys.
I love you guys.